Hello, dear friends. Here we are at Kardec Radio at 11 p.m. nourishing our souls together. Yes, here we are in the beautiful opportunity of studying Illuminated prayers. Why do we need prayers? Because it's the way we communicate with God. Not the only way. A prayerful life is for us good actions. Good actions are prayers as well. But we need to communicate consciously. As human beings, we have a gift of consciousness, of communication with consciousness, and free will. As we have studied previously in the book Evolution in Two Worlds by Luiz, through the mediums Chico, Xavier, and Paulo Vieira, with word comes responsibility. So, in this beautiful exercise of co-creating with God consciously, we have an opportunity to grow mature. Luiz, in his several books from Nosso Lar to When Life Goes On, reports to us special moments in which, inevitably, the prayers were educationally disclosed to us. Of course, if you think about his many years studying the colony of Nosso Lar, there were several moments in which prayers happened. He doesn't report them in their full description in each and every moment, but he reports them inevitably at particular times, with more than just the purpose of saying that it was a beautiful, inspirational moment. In the prayers, we have lessons, reminders, because those are prayers from illuminated minds. Today, we're going to study the last chapter of the book Missionaries of the Light, which is chapter 20th. And the book Missionaries of the Light, deeply inspirational, comes to us through the hands of Luiz with specific purposes. The title of the preface, as Emmanuel wrote in this book, is On Facing the New Era. This was written in 1945. The question for us is the following. Are we ready for this new era? Because we're still repeating the conditionings of the past. We're not gonna build a new era with the same old attitude. Today in our God at Home, we opened a message 136 from the book Our Daily Bread, in which Emmanuel talks about when Paul came talking to the Athenians in Athens, Greece. That particular moment when he comes before the most advanced scientific minds of the time. And Emmanuel says, he was doing well, Paul of Tarsus, until he mentioned about life immortality, renewal, inner renewal. From that point on, he was left alone, and people sarcastically disregarded him. Many of us, even as spiritists, were repeating the same egotistic mistake of the Athenians. Many people want to talk about the scientific part. They want to talk about phenomena. But when we talk about the inner, it's to be put aside. Come on, we don't need to go there. We're learning. One day we're gonna learn it all. And we repeat the same mistake. So today, our dear mentor Alexander comes to do exactly what Emmanuel opens in the preface. We're facing a new era and we need a new attitude. We need new habits, new conditionings for the better. And Alexander in chapter 20th, which is precisely the last chapter of this book, Missionaries of the Light, our dear mentor Alexander is going to report to us precisely the same call. He's going to say this, reinforce precisely that. How does he do it? Right? So the chapter 20th of the book Missionaries of the Light. You see in this chapter that André Luiz begins in a very cute way. He says, I was looking forward to continuing my studies with Mentor Alexander when Luiz surprised me with a note, an invitation to a farewell gathering for Mentor Alexander, because he was going to travel to another sphere to learn new things. And the beauty of it all is how André Luiz takes it. He's like, but Luiz, what about his works here in the minister? Well, other people are going to do it. It's already assigned. Of course, it's responsibility. Unlike many people in the material realm, even in spiritual centers, who dare to leave tasks abandoned and have no responsibility in assigning to somebody else or preparing somebody else to continue. In higher spheres, we're responsible. We're not selfish. We don't think only of ourselves. We think of those who are going to continue. If we leave to do something else, we are sure that everything is going to be in place where we've been. And other people who are prepared will continue the works. That's responsibility. So Lisa said, well, let us join them. And there is a beautiful conversation between Luiz and André Luiz. And as André Luiz says, my kind friend Luiz understood, smiled, and pointed out, because there was an impact on André Luiz. Luiz says, we cannot forget about our own duties. Learning in the various formats in which it appears always comes to an end. Although knowledge is infinite, we need to demonstrate in practice what we have learned. What better testimony of assimilation can we give our esteemed instructor than to follow the service we were initiated into through his kindness until he returns from his temporary journey? That's true, André Luiz says. So they got together and showed up at the gathering. There is a description of the beautiful sky, of the breeze, and Luiz and André Luiz observed the many students of Alexander that were invited to that farewell party. André Luiz says, I was surprised by the wonderfully illuminated hall, but no luxury. Star-shaped chandelier with a brilliant blue light, beautiful ambience. And then Luiz introduced André Luiz to other companions who were Alexander's disciples. Total of 68 in all, he says, including 15 women. All refer to our loving mentor with laudatory words, as we were all deeply indebted to him. So, Alexander starts speaking in a paternal tone, but we needed to observe some parts of his discourse to understand his prayer. He says, "You all know the reason for this get-together. I wish to say goodbye to you because of the temporary absence to which I am compelled by higher reasons of service. I noticed by the looks of those around me that most of them were feeling as downcast as I was. We owed a lot to the wise and benevolent spirit." So after a short pause, Alexander continued, "I know the purity of your love for me, and I'm certain that you are aware of the amount of esteem I have for you. It's only natural. We're friends in the same endeavor for the good, and we're fortunate partners in carrying out the divine will. Companions in the constructive struggle, today's separation, despite being only fleeting, would weigh heavily on us if we did not have the light of understanding in our soul." And then he gave a longer pause. "Some co-workers to whom I owe much have begged me to remain in our colony of work. A kindness I'm very thankful for. There is no vanity in what I'm saying, only the mutual and loyal affection to which we devote ourselves. However, dear friends, it is imperative that we remember that this humble servant must not fill the space that only Jesus must occupy in your lives." I know he continues saying many things, but this is the crowning moment of his conversation. Later, he is going to recap when we, in ancient times, adored things, stones, objects as gods. When we worshipped people, the ancient pharaohs, thinking they were gods or semi-gods. And to date, when spiritists adore mediums, how are we gonna face a new era with old conditionings? We're not. We're still childish, worshipping speakers who are simply fulfilling tasks in the teamwork effort of it all. But the worst of it all is when, unlike Alexander, we try to be indispensable, like our Master Jesus is for us on earth. Alexander is sympathetic to everybody's feelings, but he's still teaching and saying, I cannot stay here for longer to the point that you believe that I'm more important than the governor of the planet. The same did Jesus when he didn't kick and scream about the passion. He never felt he was indispensable. It's one of the most important lessons of the gospel. He was teaching us that the only one we should need forever, indispensably, is God. And that's why Jesus didn't come out of the cross. Because he knows we all need to love God above all things. But we don't. So much so that the minute we find something that is paternal and makes us feel like children, we cling on it. And we have a hard time letting go. That happens in our families or in our social circle. We become attached. So the last message of this book, Missionaries of the Light, is a lesson on detachment. Detachment of the old conditionings. We need to learn new responses for old problems. We need to learn new responses for old problems. Try new ways of being. Emmanuel begins the book Missionaries of the Light saying that we're facing a new era. And Luiz finishes the book by talking about letting go of the old times, opening the new era by saying goodbye. That's why this chapter is titled Farewells. By saying goodbye to the old and opening ourselves up to train to the new. So that's why Tara Brach, the Buddhist psychologist, is right. We will only conquer it through radical acceptance. If we resist, we won't get there. It's risky because we don't know. The new way of responding to old problems is so new, we don't know. And it's puzzling at times, or it's fearful, it's weird, we don't know, but it's worth trying. Why? Because we have a guide. So we're not trying something nobody tried. We're just trying a new way of being that Master Jesus has been teaching us for quite a while. And I wouldn't say for 2,000 years, because he has been training us for longer than that, has been sending masters longer than that, and we've been trained for longer than that. So, sorry to say, but shame on us on earth when we're still saying, it's been 2,000 years, been more than that. Because we know the message of the Christ consciousness in its universal features for much longer than that. Like the Jesus in the book, Jesus in the Home, in the last chapter, 50. The same happens. Jesus is about to travel and everybody's feeling like abandoned. And he closes the meeting with a prayer. He doesn't say anything. He closes it with a prayer. And like Minister Veneranda in the book No Solar, when she gives talks, she always refrains from being better than the Master. So she doesn't even conclude her talks because it's not on us to have to write the end of it all. It's humility, right? Right, Rodi? Reprogram the subconscious, learn to respond instead of reacting, and having courage to learn the new and to practice the new, and feeling safe in spite of the unknown. So Mentor Alexander, before the prayer, he says, even as an instructor, he needs to evolve. And he in a long conversation, he says, let us love one another as Jesus loved us, but let us help one another against the development of destructive exclusivity. And he says more in other moments of this discourse. He says we need to avoid the worshipping of new gods. He finalizes before the prayer by saying, we owe Jesus Christ all our thanks. He is the divine intermediary between the Father and us. Let us thank our Master for his blessings, lessons, and tasks. The spirit of gratitude to the Lord makes life more joyful and renders the work of fragile servants worthwhile. So Alexander, receiving the loving vibrations and the recognition of everybody, he emits sublime radiations of light, and he says, now, dear friends, let us raise our thoughts of jubilation and gratitude of Christ, consecrating to him the unforgettable emotions of our farewell. Everybody was there, and there was an intense, bright, sapphire light, and with Alexander's eyes turned upward, he extended his arms as if he were talking to the invisible, but present Master, praying with infinite beauty. Ready? That's our time for the illuminated prayer of the night, right? Dear Lord, may we render to you, to your merciful heart, all our joys, hopes, and aspirations. Teach us to carry out your unknown purposes. Open to us the golden doors of opportunity for service, and help us to understand your will. May our work be the sacred workshop of infinite blessings. Convert our difficulties into saintly encouragement. Transform the obstacles along the way into lessons renewed. In your name, we shall sow goodness wherever the thorns of evil appear. We shall bring your light to wherever darkness persists. We shall spread the balm of your love wherever there is weeping from suffering. We shall proclaim your blessings wherever there is condemnation. We shall unfurl your flag of peace in the wars of hatred. Lord, enable us to serve you with the faithfulness with which you love us, and forgive our weakness and hesitation in the execution of your work. Strengthen our hearts, so that the past may not disturb us and the future may not worry us, so that we may honor your trust on this day that you have given us for our continued renewal until our final victory. We are your wards on earth, confused by the memories of millenary errors. But we now wish, with all the strength of our souls, deliverance in your love forever. Uproot evil from our hearts. Free us from inferior desires. Dissipate the darkness that obscures the vision of your divine plan, and help us to become loyal servants of your infinite wisdom. Give us the balance of your law. Put out the fire of passion that sometimes still erupts into the depths of our feelings, threatening the development of our higher spirituality. Keep us in your redemptive inspiration, in the unlimited love that you have reserved for us. And may we, partakers in your work of incessant progress, be able to follow your sublime designs at all times, making ourselves faithful servants of your light forever. So be it. All around the flowers exhaled a very pleasant fragrance under the silver light of the evening. And far away up in the heavens, the celestial bodies shined like brilliant hearts of light on distant shores of the universe, linked as we were to one another in the search for the supreme joys of union with the Divine One. So friends, of all things, the first one is our renewal, commitment, and conscious commitment with Christ. Till now, we have been like small children who are learning about their independence and they feel like they can do it all. An illusion. We often behave like this. And the higher spirits report to us that we will only be fulfilled when we surrender to those who are assigned to guide us. Jesus for us, as the master and the governor of the planet is our governor. We need to learn to be easy on his hands and to ask him to be faithful to our commitments, so we don't allow the past to override us again. So the message today can be summarized in the exercise for us. Strengthen our hearts so that the past may not disturb us and the future may not worry us. But this will only happen if the past is disturbing us. It's because we don't have guidance. We're trying to drive solo. We're not. If the future worries us, it's because we think we're alone, driving the car of our lives by ourselves. We're just the co-pilots. Open your eyes and see. Oh, God. Oof. God is the pilot. So, don't worry. Be happy. Of course we have to do our part. Think so we don't go back to old conditions. How are we going to build a new era on earth if in my daily life I have new responses for old problems? Ancient times, we've escaped from problems. Ancient times, we face them with violence. Not to escape and stay serene is new to us. And it feels strange. It may feel sometimes like we're doing nothing. But in that decision, there is an action in itself. A non-violent way of being. We will no longer apply the spirit of force, as Emmanuel says, but the force of spirit. when Jesus was going through the crucifixion, the passion, the crucifixion. Many people couldn't understand why he stayed still. Come on, you can get out of this mess. You can do it. And people were puzzled. But in that apparent stillness, there was a choice. He is also the co-pilot. There is only one pilot, God. And God was operating on the behind the scenes. So much so that in the book Good News, in every single chapter, we see how God was operating on the behind the scenes. And now we understand a little better that this non-violent action of staying serene is a true action. It's not inactivity. In ancient times, we, or until recently, were reacting with violence. Now we allow people to do what they want to do, but we do what we need to do. We no longer enforce. We keep proposing ourselves the transformation. So it's okay to stay serene and trust that everything shall pass. We'll never be abandoned. Luiz recovers from that illusion that he was attached to that teacher, Alexander. And later in other books, he reveals to us many other lessons. So friends, as we are called to the detachment of the old, saying farewell to the old selves, let us ask Jesus to also strengthen our hearts, to be courageous in learning new responses to old problems, and not be disturbed by the past or worried about the future. Let us pray together, reinforcing that this is what we're committed to do. Thank you, dear Luiz, for another book, another report, for kindly sharing your feelings, real feelings, making us feel understood through your feelings, your reasoning, and for reminding us through the illuminated prayer of Mentor Alexander of the importance of renewing ourselves in our commitment to God, thus the surrender to God's assigned governor for us, and the certainty that we are built to renew ourselves. Right now we breathe in and out and feel the proposal of renewal. We feel the proposal of a new beginning and the certainty that we are all progressing, including those who are temporarily instruments of pain in our lives, instruments of hurt in people's lives. May we be or learn to be instruments of your peace. And so be it. Thank you, friends. Andre Luiz, what an encouraging lesson, right, Rudy? Thank you, friends. Tomorrow we're going to enter another book with more illuminated prayers, lessons from the beyond, encouraging us to new beginnings. We give a big hug of gratitude, joy, a lot of reflections, and the exercise in the 24 hours that we strengthen our hearts to not allow to be disturbed by the past and worried by our future. Thank you so much. Until tomorrow, God willing.